from the Hudson Media Group studio. This is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit Online magazine, and certainly the sworn enemy of all the toxic progressives, social justice clowns, climate hysterics, and woke fools, not just throughout Hudson County, but throughout the state of New Jersey. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Hoping you all have a wonderful start to your autumn season. I love the fall weather, leaves changing colors, the NFL is in full gear, baseball playoffs are around the corner. I just love the chilly weather, and I know you do too. Folks, of course, there's always a lot to discuss here, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to John Hines via the Hudson County View for his report on this story, but it really sort of sheds a light on an ongoing problem, not just in sort of the worst areas around us, but quite frankly, a public safety issue that we should all be talking about, not just amongst each other, but reaching out to our legislators in Trenton to act more, decisively on. Now, recently, a man was fatally shot on Marshall Drive in Hoboken. For anyone who knows that, it's sort of like that really bad area of Hoboken on the west side. Now, Councilman Ruben Ramos, out of the 4th Ward, put out a statement last week, said, quote, "I want to alert you to an incident that happened overnight. 2 men were involved in a heated argument outside on Marshall Drive at approximately 3:30 in the morning. Of course, as we all know, folks, nothing good happens after 2 a.m., especially in the projects. And one shot the other. Now, the victim who did not survive the shooting was indeed a Hoboken resident. I've spoken with Hoboken Police Chief Aguiar this morning, who informed me that the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office is indeed investigating and currently has a person of interest who is outside of Hoboken." Now, Councilman went on to say that anyone with information about the incident should indeed contact the Hoboken Police Department at 201-420-2100 and or the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office at 201-795-6400. Again, they're located at 595 Newark Avenue in the Journal Square area of Jersey City. Now, this is what kind of bothered me about the councilman's statement, because let's all remember that Ruben Ramos at one time was an assemblyman in the 33rd Legislative District. So if anyone ever had any sort of influence or at least the ability to talk about gun violence, it was him, because quite frankly, he, along with his fellow legislators, made it more difficult for, responsible citizens and law-abiding citizens to be able to arm themselves with a firearm. And again, New Jersey has the strictest firearm laws in anywhere in the United States. Never mind New York or Connecticut. New Jersey arguably has the strictest anywhere in the nation. But the councilman went on to say, quote, "Sadly, the scourge of gun violence that is plaguing our country has hit very close to home. Our thoughts are with the victims' families during this difficult time." Well, again, Ruben, I like you, man, and I've gotten to know you. You've been a gentleman. You've been on my podcast on numerous occasions. So I'm not really trying to take a personal shot at you, but again, man, you got to word these things better. Sadly, the scourge of gun violence. Well, again, Ruben, gun violence is a problem because criminals don't follow laws. Okay, haven't we been fighting the war on drugs for over 40 years, and are we nowhere closer to trying to stop the flow of drugs into the United States? I mean, whether it's buying marijuana, cocaine, heroin, whatever else, folks, okay? It's been coming across our southern border for decades. I mean, also across the Atlantic, across the Pacific, even up north from Canada. But the point is that just like we have failed in stopping the flow of drugs into this country, we've also stopped the flow of illegal guns coming into the country as well. So yes, when the councilman wants to go on and say the scourge of gun violence, well, understand again, gun violence isn't as a result of law-abiding citizens. Folks, I'm a dues-paying NRA member, and I'd also have my firearms permit. And I'll say this, responsible gun owners like myself aren't the ones we have to worry about, okay? Law-abiding citizens, law-abiding members of the NRA, which again I think are somewhere over 3 million dues-paying members, okay? Let's be very fair, folks. It's not law-abiding citizens that we have to worry about. So when we talk about gun violence, it's because of criminals that choose not to follow laws. Now, I get it. It's the projects. It's Marshall Drive. It's quite arguably the worst part of Hoboken. So no one should be surprised when someone's being shot after 2 in the morning. Again, I'd be surprised if someone wasn't shot in the project at least once a week in Hoboken. But again, let me not digress here. But this is really at the core of the matter, folks, that law-abiding citizens, whether it be in Hoboken or any municipality in New Jersey, in all 21 counties, again, don't have the ability to arm themselves or protect their homes, protect their families, protect their loved ones, even their neighbors if necessary. Why? Because far-left Democrats in the legislature for years now have made it increasingly more difficult for law-abiding citizens to be able to, jump through all these hoops, right, to register online, go through a background check, get fingerprinted. It's a very costly endeavor, folks. And rightfully so, I get it. Listen, not everybody should have access to a firearm. Trust me, don't get it twisted here. I'm not trying to think that we should be the Wild Wild West here. But understand something, that law-abiding citizens, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, whoever wants to protect their families, Democrats and the far left in New Jersey have made it increasingly more difficult. Never mind the emperor, Governor Murphy, and far left Democrats in the legislature, who, again, it's cool for them to have armed security 24/7. But for you, ladies and gentlemen, my loyal viewing audience, for you to protect yourselves, yeah, not so much. And I think that's the blatant hypocrisy that comes from the left when it comes to gun violence. Now, I understand that guns are still a serious problem, but folks, as I've said it before, I've said it again, it's not law-abiding citizens like myself that you have to worry about, because at the end of the day, criminals don't follow laws. And isn't it funny, though, when you think about states like California, again, another dump, another blue state that's run poorly, Illinois, another blue state that's run poorly, specifically Chicago, probably the worst of dumps in these continents of the United States, next to Philadelphia and maybe a couple other cities, okay? Don't they have the strictest gun laws anywhere in the country as well, as a major metropolitan city? Yes, certainly. Yes, across New York, that's not helping either, certainly in Connecticut or even in upstate New York. And you would think that after the United States Supreme Court clearly articulated what the Second Amendment means and how states have the right and how people have the right to own a firearm, to even have an open carry or a permit carrying, okay? Yeah, unfortunately, far-left governors like Kathy Hochul in New York and far-left governors like Phil Murphy here in New Jersey and pretty boy Gavin Newsom out in California, they don't care about your security, folks. They want a virtue signal about the evil of guns and how the evil of firearms is sort of toxifying this country. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's people, yes, who are mentally ill, who get their hands on firearms. And I understand that's still a problem. But folks, just like we haven't stopped the flow of drugs into this country for almost a half a century, we're nowhere closer to stopping the flow of illegal guns coming in either. So what are laws doing to protect us? No, nothing. And again, I'm very pro-law enforcement. I'm as pro-blue as it comes. But folks, again, at the end of the day, response times can vary. And if you can have the opportunity to protect your home, protect your loved ones, why not? Why make it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to be able to arm themselves and protect their families? As I said before, folks, the left, progressives, a lot of crazy Democrats love to virtue signal. They love to sort of lecture you about this and be all sanctimonious and self-righteous about, oh my God, gun violence is still a problem. And let me be very clear. I'm not saying that Ruben Ramos is in that category. But Ruben, you got to pick your words better. Yes, there is a problem with gun violence, but again, that gun violence is not predicated on law-abiding citizens. You want to say that, I don't know, the issue of, illegal guns, because I'm pretty sure, ladies and gentlemen, that once this person of interest is captured and they're interrogated, I'll bet you anything that they somehow got their hands on that gun that issued that, bullet that killed that man on Marshall Drive. I'm pretty sure that gun was obtained illegally. Are we anywhere closer to stopping the flow of illegal guns? Of course not. That's what we should be focusing on. Because more times than not, when it comes to gun violence, it's not perpetrated by law-abiding citizens like myself. It's perpetrated by derelicts, degenerates, and criminals. There's way too many around us on a daily basis. You don't believe me? I don't know. Check out HUDpost. Check out all these local sites that show all the amounts of derelicts and degenerates living among us. Folks, there are those even that have access to firearms and have access to them illegally. And unfortunately, these are the people committing crimes. It's not law-abiding citizens, it's the criminals. Until we address them and we're harsher on them and exact, harsher penalties, we're never going to end gun violence. That's the core lesson here, and that's really the moral of the story. Hoping Ruben Ramos is listening, as well as other people who identify as Democrats, because at the end of the day, you know what? I'm not saying Ruben Ramos doesn't care about your safety. He does, but many on the left and many crazy Democrats really don't. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now some local news throughout Hudson County, and a special thank you to Terry West from the Jersey Journal for her report on this story. Now, according to the Township of Weehawken, apparently Boulevard East bike lanes could be a reality. The township is open, but here's a bigger question. What about West New York and North Bergen? Now, when advocates in Weehawken started pushing to prioritize bike lanes in Hudson County, and sort of a redesign of the very busy and occupied and voluminous Boulevard East, They specifically called for the kind that is considered the safest, protected lanes, sandwiched between the sidewalks and parked cars. Now, Mayor Richard Turner in the past had shut down the idea of a bike lane altogether for many, many months. But newly, he seems to be changing his tune and is willing to have unprotected bike lanes between the moving cars and parked cars on the county roadway that starts near the Lincoln Tunnel and winds about 4.7 miles through James J. Braddock North Hudson Park all the way in North Bergen. Now, some other details here that are, I think, very significant. It's unclear whether elected municipal and county leaders in neighboring towns like West New York and North Bergen would allow the lanes to continue through their sections of Boulevard East, which feature spectacular views of the Manhattan skyline, day and night. Now, Chairman of the Hudson County Board of Commissioners, Anthony Veneri, also the Chairman of the Hudson County Democratic Organization, whose District 8 includes the north end of Boulevard East, said he's polling residents to see if they preferred angled parking on the road or a protected bike lane. Folks, angled parking on Boulevard East is going to be a disaster. Let's not do that. As for an unprotected bike lane, he is unsure it would be compatible with angled parking. Yeah, absolutely not. Now, West New York officials said that District 7 Commissioner Caridad Rodriguez, whose district included much of Boulevard East, did not respond to requests for comments. Now, Ryan Emge founded Bike Weehawken, one of these insufferable bicycle groups, for sure, late last year after learning that the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, the NJTPA, was working on a plan to enhance safety on Boulevard East with federal funding. Yes, another macchiato sipping, woke, probably white activist that wants to, virtue signal and make, Boulevard East the next Williamsburg, for God's sakes. But anyway, now the NJTPA has developed multiple versions of a plan to redesign the road perched at the top of the Palisades Cliff, one of which included protected bike lanes on the east side of the road for about 3 miles, for which he rallied community support for. Now, to this day, Mayor Turner of Weehawken claims that the protected bike lanes would eliminate at least 147 street parking spaces, which is madness. It's, folks, finding parking in Boulevard East in Weehawken, Union City, even West New York, is difficult enough as it is. That's the problem with people like Ryan Emge, that, they can't see the forest from the trees. But more on him later. Which he says simply cannot be sacrificed in such a densely populated area. Good for Mayor Turner for calling that out. He also says that he toured the roadway with county engineers to make his argument that the road is not wide enough to support protected bike lanes. According to Bike Weehawken, of course, they're going to bitch and moan about it. However, the bike lanes themselves will only eliminate 15 parking spaces. According to who? Stevie Wonder? Ryan, come on. I think I'm going to trust the engineers that do this for a living over you, bro. Okay? Now, other safety improvements such as bump outs intended to slow cars down and make it safer for pedestrians to cross will also eliminate some parking spaces. Again, that's not necessary. But, people that want to engage in hysteria will always be about this. Turner and the bike advocates just don't agree on the number. Now, the mayor, though, does remain firm on his initial stance that parking cannot be eliminated. But now he says he's willing to have a painted bike lane on each side of the road between the moving cars and parked cars. Now, again, folks, shout out to Mayor Turner. I think he's been holding his ground. But this is the problem, folks. And again, I've been saying this, whether it's going to council meetings in Jersey City or discussing it on not just this show, but my other show, Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV on Monday nights, or even on my Talking the Hudson podcast on Blog Talk Radio, where I have just developed this insatiable disdain for bicyclists. Okay? These bicyclists have become an absolute nuisance. Okay? Whether it's showing up with helmets to city council meetings or town council meetings or protesting or whatever. See, folks, this is the problem. Bicyclists think that they own the road, and they want to dictate to the rest of us. Now, again, if we lived in Paramus, if we lived in Wayne, if we lived in, Lodi or Hasbrook Heights or Ridgewood or, Teaneck, wherever, like very vastly spaced environments and townships, let's say in southern Bergen County or northern Bergen County, that's one thing. Ladies and gentlemen, Hudson County is the most densely populated county, not just in New Jersey, but in the continental United States. So the idea that bicyclists, again, it's just like, this is what annoys me about these idiots, that they just feel they own the road. They want a virtue signal about, well, we should get greener. We need to have more bike lanes. Yes, we need to get in shape. I don't disagree. If anything, COVID taught us is we need to get back in shape. Okay? And yes, bicycling helps. But the problem is, though, folks, that in an area like ours, sacrificing parking spaces just doesn't work. Okay? Now, in some townships, residents have to pay to park. There's a resident parking fee. All right? Now, not in Union City, for example, but in other municipalities. So the idea of eliminating parking spaces, again, whether it's Ryan Emge with Bike Weehawken or Bike JC, all these other insufferable bicyclist organizations that just, quite frankly, I have disdain for. Because, folks, this is the thing. They want accountability from everybody else on the road, but not themselves. And I promise you, if all of us just wrote to our legislators and demanded that bicyclists have to register their bicycles, their plates, insure the vehicle, and register it again altogether, trust me, bicyclists would behave a lot more responsibly on the road. But whether it's Uber Eats, bicycle delivery people, or I don't know, Grubhub, or whatever the case could be, or just people going up and down to work on Boulevard East or Bergen Line Avenue or Broadway or wherever else, folks, it's become intolerable. It's become insufferable. Okay, just look at Palisade Avenue, starting Union City all the way down into, I guess, almost by the Jersey City Heights. Folks, bike lanes, I'm sorry, in a densely populated area, especially where there's parking spaces, are a nuisance. But don't tell that to bike advocates like Ryan Emge and all these other clowns, whether it's in Jersey City, North Bergen, West New York, Hoboken, whoever. I get it. It's all these preppy white suburbanites that move into these densely populated areas and feel like, oh, I just want to ride my bike because that's what I'm used to doing. No, sorry, bro, and sorry, honey. It doesn't work that way, okay? Be considerate of everybody else on the road, and maybe I want to be considerate of you. I can't begin to tell you the amount of times that bicyclists have been a nuisance on my commute to work and all of your commutes as well, all right? But you want accountability on them? Demand from your legislators that they have to register their vehicles just like everybody else, okay? Because if I have to be held accountable, then these clowns should too. Now, again, I don't know what's going to happen in Weehawken, but I would argue that bike lanes, especially on Boulevard East, as busy as it is, as transient as it is a terrible idea. And more so if you're limiting parking spaces. Ryan Emge might be short-sighted and saying, oh, well, it's only 15 spaces. Baloney, bro. You know it, and I know it. It's not. It's eliminating and hurting commuters, hurting families that move into these areas, or even lifelong residents that know that they have to own an automobile, have to park it somewhere. And I'm sorry, accommodating all you bicyclists isn't high on my priority list. In a heartwarming story brought to you by John Hynes via the Hudson County Review, I'm happy to report that the presidents from Hudson County Community College, the Stevens Institute of Technology, and St. Peter's University were all named to NJBiz's latest Education Power 50 list. Quote, as education evolved along with the economy, these individuals will ensure that the next generation and the one after that will be equipped to move the state forward. They're producing new healthcare professionals to meet serious medical needs. This is according to NJBiz chief editor Jeffrey Kennedy, writing about these honorees. Now, again, let me just give a shout out to Hudson County Community College President Dr. Chris Reber, the Stevens Institute of Technology President Nariman Faradhan, and St. Peter's University's President Eugene Carnaccia for these honors. Now, again, folks, when we talk about very worthwhile institutions of learning, hey, these guys certainly deserve all the kudos that they got. Now, respectively, they made the list at 19, 24, and 44. Now, however, the top 10 honorees are listed in numerical order, while the remaining 40 are indeed in alphabetical order. So arguably, folks, and Dr. Chris Reber said it perfectly, being named to the 2022 NJBiz Education Power 50 represents the transformational opportunities that have been achieved for our students and our community by working with my Hudson County Community College colleagues, our community, corporate partners, and elected officials. I'm proud to share this award with all of them. Now, Reber has become the Hudson County Community College president since July of 2018 and recently waived $4.8 million in outstanding financial balances for more than 5,000 Hudson County Community College students during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, I had a chance to talk to Dr. Chris Reber once again on my Real Talk show via Jersey First TV some months ago. It was an exceptional interview, and what really caught my attention about Dr. Reber was the fact that, listen, we might sometimes think that administrators and college or university presidents don't care about their students or don't care about their faculty or don't care about the staff. That could not be farther from the truth, folks, when it comes to Dr. Chris Reber. I know the man personally, and he's a guy I've developed quite a rapport with. And this is a man, I'll tell you, deserves every kudo he's getting, not just with this award, but other awards. And again, a shout out to the other college presidents here, again, from the Stevens Institute of Technology and also St. Peter's University, who again are working hard in arguably the most densely populated area in the country, and quite frankly, in the most urban of environments, not just in Hoboken, in the Midtown section of Jersey City, and also in northern Hudson County. Once again, congratulations to them for their hard work, their dedication to the community, and more importantly, their dedication to education. As someone who works in higher ed and has been working in education for some time, when you see professionals like this working as hard as they do, hey, they deserve all the accolades that they're getting. As the weather's getting chillier, the winter months are coming up very, very soon. And a great article here from Paul Mulshine from the Star-Ledger, who, by the way, is one of the few journalists I actually respect in this state, because as we all know, there is an abundance and plethora of garbage journalists everywhere. But Paul Mulshine is the exception. He's a really good article this week talking about energy concerns and, quite frankly, how the left in New Jersey always seems to engage in hypocrisy every chance that they get. Now, the article is titled, "With a Cold Winter Coming, New Jersey Democrats' Debate on Energy Does Indeed Heat Up." Now, a couple of talking points here I think which are very, very important. He talks about St. Augustine to Christianity after he enjoyed such a sort of prolific youth here, sort of the conversion. "Give me chastity and continence, but not yet." And that sort of seems to mirror, according to Paul Mulshine, Governor Phil Murphy's attitude towards the elimination of fossil fuels. Now, the governor, has backed a plan to effectively eliminate them all by 2050. But his critics do go on to say that he should move to prohibit any new fossil fuel projects immediately. Now, he didn't do that, and last week Murphy was met by a group of about 30 energy activists. Now, when the governor showed up to speak at an event in New Brunswick, the protesters, of course, like always, because these climate hysterics love to virtue signal like always, held up signs calling for him to cancel 7 projects that will require fossil fuels. For example, the state director for Food and Water Action, Matt Smith, another insufferable virtue signaling, environmental climate hysteria organization, trust me, look it up, said Murphy is violating the spirit of his executive order to cut emissions in half by 2030. He can't dig the hole deeper by approving new sources of these same emissions, Smith told NJ Advanced Media. Actually, yes, he can. Like the youthful Augustine, Murphy wants to have his fun now, and ultimately he'll let his successors start out all these projects. Now, there's already a split, though, ladies and gentlemen, on the energy issue among the likely contenders for the 2025 Democratic gubernatorial nomination. One Democrat, for example, has made it already perfectly clear that he's in the running, and of course that is former State Senate President Steve Sweeney of Gloucester County, and another candidate likely is Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop. Now, last week, Fulop had an op-ed on the Star-Ledger calling for the state to increase rebates for the purchase of electric vehicles. The mayor said he wants the state to, quote, swiftly eliminate fossil and diesel-powered vehicles from our roads, especially in cities like Jersey City. Not so fast, though, according to Steve Sweeney. In a tweet clearly aimed at Stephen Fulop, Steve Sweeney wrote, quote, alternative green energy such as wind energy, electric energy, and solar power are needed priorities. But right now, we need to invest in taxpayer relief, invest in urban redevelopment, and make sure that union brothers and sisters are working. Well, of course, as we all know, Steve Sweeney has gotten plenty of money over the years from unions, so I'm not surprised about him sticking it in there during that tweet. Now, what we have here apparently is a rift between the old Democratic Party and the new Democratic Party. Now, Fulop is aiming for the support of new Democrats who have among their highest of priorities, and to no one's surprise, of course, with their virtue signaling, the elimination of fossil fuels in an effort to fight climate change. Sweeney represents the sort of traditional Democrats where he's an official with the Ironworkers Union, and he puts a high priority on projects that create jobs. So does State Senator Edward Durr, who coincidentally beat former State Senate President Steve Sweeney last November. Now, he's been known as Trucker Red on Twitter, and he pulled off what might have been the biggest upset again in the nation last year during the State Senate election. Now, again, what's interesting, though, is that Durr went on to say, if you recall, Sweeney was when he first got into office, was the working man's Democrat, a more common sense moderate. Unfortunately, he hasn't portrayed himself that way for many, many years, and that's why I beat him. You know, folks, it's interesting about this sort of drama that's going on within the Democratic Party. Because, listen, Stephen Fulop reminds me of these, like, woke, climate hysteria activists and virtue signalers that want to talk about, well, you know what, there should be a tax rebate for electric vehicles. No, Steve. Let me give you a little bit of a history lesson and a little bit of a science lesson. Okay? See what's going on in California with pretty boy Gavin Newsom, where, yes, we need to eliminate fossil fuels and, oil-powered cars by, I believe, 2030, right? Well, that's almost, or 2035, excuse me. That's right around the corner, folks. These years go by quickly. And what's happening right now, the electric power grid in California can't manage everybody's electric cars being powered. And of course, what are we having? An energy ration. You can't power your vehicles during certain times. You can only run your AC to a certain temperature, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is where, again, folks, the myopic, short-sighted perspective of the left and Democrats like Stephen Fulop, again, make it so obvious. Steve, I hate to break it to you, bro, but electric cars are not going to work here, okay? Do you think that maybe some science hasn't been done or some data hasn't been collected on the fact that if you power your home with a portable air conditioner or a wall unit or air conditioning in general, that's going to consume just as much energy as an electric car to be powered? We're going to tell people during the summer in Jersey City not to turn on their air conditioner? What? Sort of like just cook their asses all throughout the summer months? Of course not, Steve. And much less yourself. You're going to be living nice in your AC apartment or home with your wife and kids. But again, folks, this is where people like Stephen Fulop and left and progressives and those on the left and all these climate hysterics get it wrong. Folks, it's not about electric cars. Petroleum is still necessary, not just in fueling our homes, fueling our vehicles, but the production of items that we use on a daily basis. And by the way, folks, do you know what electric cars are powered on? Lithium batteries. And by the way, have you flown lately? What's the first thing that's done to you when you get to the TSA? Yes, all of your laptops, your MacBooks, Chromebooks, whatever, are removed. Why? Because they contain lithium batteries. But yet, someone like Stephen Fulop and his far-left progressive friends, right, that are all about green energy, guess what? They're also pushing for lithium-powered airplanes. You're worried about me and my Mac blowing up the plane, but you want an airplane powered on a lithium battery? Good luck with that, Steve, and everybody else on the left that loves to virtue signal about climate hysteria and green energy. Folks, it's a bad idea, it's bad news, it's bad business, and more importantly, it's a really, really bad sign for taxpayers and their pockets when it comes to this sort of hypocrisy that's so blatant by climate hysterics and the left on a daily basis. And that's our show for this week. To check out, once again, all the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please go to their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Don't forget to like the Hudson Media Group on Facebook, follow it on both Instagram and Twitter, and also check out the Hudson Media Group YouTube page. Sharing is caring, folks. All it takes is a couple seconds. Click that share button and make sure it goes on all of your social media platforms. Now, don't forget, new episodes of the 7-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, will resume later this month via www.blogtalkradio.com/talkingthehudson. Upcoming guests will include HudPost publisher James De Los Santos, Tap Into Jersey City columnist and the Dean of Hudson County Journalism, Al Sullivan, and many, many more. Make sure you like Talking the Hudson on Facebook and follow it on Instagram as well at Talking the Hudson. And make sure you follow this show also on Instagram at Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe. Make sure you like me on Facebook as well. You can't miss me, folks. It's the handsome guy with the very nice headshot, new headshot, courtesy of Jersey First TV. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it is always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino, via the Latino Spirit Online magazine for 2020, 2021, and now in 2022, and also the sworn enemy of all the woke fools, social justice clowns, toxic progressives, and climate hysterics here in New Jersey. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, and thank you so much for watching.